welcome to the 757 Spy Flight over on YouTube. Welcome to the channel. Welcome if you are new. My name is Dave. I do the Spy Flights over on Twitch, and each week I like to come over here and take on an airplane and do a full cold and dark flight. And the whole idea is to be able to show you which buttons I'm pushing and the order that I'm pushing them so that you can learn to fly some of these incredibly complex airplanes. And I have to tell you, the one that we're going to fly today is probably my scariest airplane in flight sim, and you'll see why as we move along here. But our flight today, we're taking the BAe-146. I'm taking the 300 variant of this airplane, which is more passengers, a little longer. This is a full cold and dark flight, so I haven't even flipped on the switches yet. I'm using Navigraph, SimBrief, and Volanta for today's flight. I also had a quick look at the flight earlier in the day in SkyVector, which is an incredibly good little flight planner, and also be telling you a little bit about some of the spy planning stuff that I do for the flight. Now, let me start off right here and tell you, I have a lot to learn about this airplane. This airplane, there is a lot in this little package, but it is a fun commuter airplane. It's a fun little airplane, but beware, it's tough, but it will grow on you, okay? It's going to grow on you. It is perfect for short hops. And if you're getting started in the world of flight sim and stuff like that, there is absolutely nothing like short hops. One more little thing here. This is not about the right way versus the wrong way. This is simply what works for me. I've been flight simming since the very first home flight simulator came out, been live streaming for 6 years, and I have a private pilot's license. That is about the only claim to fame that I really have on any of this. So hopefully the buttons that I'm pushing will help you to learn which buttons for you to push and make all of this work in your airplane, okay? There we go. Let's go ahead and the flight plan here, I've already gone and got my stack of charts here over in Navigraph. So if we take a quick look here, this is our route of flight. We are going from Manchester all the way down to Jersey. And you might know that the airline Flybe, which unfortunately is no longer with us, which is too bad. I thought it was a cute little name for an airplane. But Flybe, their call sign is Jersey. And from what I understand, it was because one of the first destinations that they all did was down to the Channel Islands, or Jersey, which is a vacation point in the UK. We are over here at stand number 50. I think it's 52 is our stand right now. I think I've already forgotten that. Right now, the winds are variable at 2 knots. I think that Manchester is departing off of 05 left, so we've got a little bit of a taxi here. Then we're departing off the ASMIM, and we're doing the 1 Sierra, so we'll just blast off here and then do a turn. Important thing when you're flying, especially if you're going to jump into VATSIM in the UK, these top altitudes here, especially on the departures, very important. The airspace is really crowded over the UK, and so that 5,000 feet is an important number. Coming in, we are doing the SKERY arrival in the SKERY airplane, and we are doing the SKERY 1 Lima arrival. So there's 2 that you could do from SKERY. One of them gives you a procedure turn over the runway, over the airport. The other one takes you down here slightly south of the airport with a nice little turn to final. With the ILS coming on in here to runway 26, platform altitude is 2,000 feet. The runway itself, not the longest, not the shortest. Last time I did this flight, I was able to make the Delta taxiway here. So, and I did it in this airplane, so maybe we're going to get lucky. We'll have to wait and see. I have already done the flight planning over on SimBrief. SimBrief does have profiles for the BAe-146s, from the 100s, the 200s, the 300s, even the QT version, the quiet versions of this airplane. Now then, I will also mention that I'm so new to this airplane that I still have what I call the spy cheat sheet. What this is a text file of, basically it's my to-do list with the airplane, and it's literally step by step. Now, it's a long one, and I'm going to put it over on Spy Discord in just a couple of days once I kind of clean up some of the mistakes in here. But this is how it is that I learn an airplane. You know, here on YouTube, watching somebody fly, creating a checklist, and then following it until I learn a little bit more about the airplane. The other thing that you're going to find, and this is in the description below, this is what I call the flight strip. This is a text file that I've been developing just for my own flight notes, and you can go and copy and paste this out of the description into your own notepad and use it any way that you want, and hopefully that helps you fly along. Okay? Are we done with all of this stuff? Shall we go ahead and jump into the airplane and try and make it work? There was an airplane over in X-Plane. You could actually open the door from the outside. That would be a cool thing if developers want to make it so that we could open the door from the outside. But we do have to go inside the cockpit, and we have to come down here to the iPad to get the doors open. So really the first thing that I usually do is the EFB is powered up. I'm going to hit OFP for flight plan. If you put your SimBrief username in the Fetch OFP button and hit continue, it will go to SimBrief and get your flight plan. Wow, does that make life special. It makes it easy. I was about to say difficult, but easy. This also is going to give you the latest METARs. Really like having the METARs like this. That is incredibly nice too. So we've got our flight plan, and there is the summary. Let's go back over here, and we're going to go over to the aircraft. And this immediately pops up with, would you like to import your OFP payload? OFP, Operational Flight Plan. Okay, let's hit import. And if you'll notice, cargo and passengers, and most importantly, zero fuel weight and fuel have both populated in the airplane. Now, I generally like to verify these things with my flight plan. So here it is over here. And my zero fuel weight is 33,573. Let's check and see. 33,573. Perfect. What about my fuel? 4845. Is it 4845? Yep, it sure is. Those two numbers. If you've got those two numbers, all the other numbers are great. We don't have to worry about it. So now let's go ahead and we're going to put in ground power. Let's also go and open the forward passenger door, and the forward passenger door will open for us. Now then, this airplane does have some stairs. So you can see the doors open here, and before you turn power on the airplane, you can go and deploy the stairs. But you cannot pull the stairs back up until you get hydraulic power. So as you can see, we've got our stairs out there, and we're all set and ready to go, and we can now climb aboard the airplane and do airplane stuff. So let's do forward cargo and aft cargo. There's two cargo bays over on the airplane, and if you come over here, there's our cargo bays. You know, these are like really low to the ground. I imagine that stuffing bags in the cargo bays of this airplane was not a fun experience. You could also see we've got a ground power cart there too. Okay, so all of this is good. I have cold and dark set up here on the airplane. I do have chocks in place, so we're not going to go rolling around anywhere. But just like other airplanes, you ought to make sure that your brakes are in place. I'm also going to make sure that my flaps are up, my speed brakes are down, my gear lever is down, and then one of the safety things that I always like to try and do is I will try and move my USB controllers. And if I can move my USB controllers like that, that just tells me that they have not disconnected, and that's kind of a good thing. Okay, it's airplane button time. So if we look up here, if you want to start jumping into a few rabbit holes with me, I'm going to go over here to the electric panel and check and make sure I have voltage in battery 1 and battery 2. Hey, we got those. I'm also going to go to the AC side, and let's go to external power, and you can see we have external power, and they're all good. With that in mind, let's go and turn on the airplane. Battery 1, battery 2. Hey, those are on. Now I'm going to slide over to the other side here, and we're going to come up here, and we're going to do the navigation lights, and I'm going to go to high intensity during the day. I think they use low intensity at night. So we've got those. Let's also go ahead and arm the cabin emergency lights while we're up here. And we're going to be fueling the airplane, so I'm going to turn on no smoking. So that's good too. And the airplane is starting to come to life, but we only have the batteries on. So the next thing to do is, do we have that ground power plugged in? And we do. And it says external AC power is available. And it's green, which is the normal color of the light. So that means we can go and turn it on, and now some more fans are going to pop on. And so now we've got AC power on the airplane too, so that's some good news. Let's see. Next thing that I like to do is go and adjust lighting. And that is, how can I see the panel? So we have some panel lights here, and we can come out here, and if I zoom out and tilt up, you can see the big pressurization. If you turn this up, you can see, that turns up the instrument lights. And then let's also go, and now you can see I'm turning up the backlighting on all the switches. It just makes things a little bit easier to see. While we're up here, I'm going to slide over to the pilot side, and you can see here it says dim glare shield. I'm going to turn that up, and what this does is all of those instruments are now backlit. And then the last thing I'll do is come down here, and if we look down here, we have panel lights for the pilot side and instrument lights on the pilot side. I'm going to turn those up, and then we'll look down here. We have also got the same thing, so forward console and aft console. If it were nighttime, I would probably do a couple of clicks of the floodlighting too. But those are the lights that we've got going on. Let's go ahead and start turning some more systems on now. Up here to the top, we have the yaw damper masters, we have the AP master, and we have the avionics master. So we've got all of those master switches on. Looking down here just a little bit, we have the lift spoilers, yellow and green. So I believe that those are the spoilers on the top of the wings, and these are the things that yellow and green, those are the two hydraulic systems that we have. So lift spoilers are good. And then the last thing we'll do is zoom out here, and we're going to turn on the anti-skid system, because we certainly don't want to go skidding around the airport. I hear that's not very professional. With that done, we can come back up here and refocus, and let's do the AC-DC bus ties. And those are right here. So AC-DC bus ties. We've also got a standby inverter and a standby generator. We're going to arm those. And then, because the most important piece of equipment in a cockpit is the pilot's coffee, we're going to turn on the galley power. Because, hey, if we don't have coffee, this airplane isn't going anywhere. And with all of that, that is my initial power-up on the BAe-146. So we've got the generator out, we got the doors open, and all of that is good. You could also, if you look over and can see, if you look over at the ground power cart, let's see if I can see it. If you look, see where it says Flybe, you can see that there is exhaust. There's hot air out of the top of the ground power cart. So this airplane is, there's some detail that's in this airplane. Okay, ready for our next steps? Let's go ahead and get the APU going. And to start the APU, we're going to turn on the left inner fuel pump. And with that, we're going to come on up here to the top. And there is a button. So here's the APU panel down here. And there is a button that says APU fire. It's guarded. Let's hit the button. And you can see all the APU fire stuff is going to go on. And it stays on for a while and then goes off. The next thing we could do is look up here a little bit more, and we could do engine and APU extinguishers. Those are all of the extinguisher lights, so we can check those. And then if you want, you could also check your engine fire. So there's engine 1 fire, and you could go ahead and run through those. But that's just a quick fire check. And with those two things done, let's go ahead and come back down to the APU panel, which is right here. And let's hit the starter button on the APU. And you can see the thing starts to come up pretty quickly. So RPM is going up. Now EGT, exhaust gas temperature, that's how hot it is out at the back tail end of the exhaust. And if you come out here and we go to the back end of the airplane, there is the APU right there. And you can even see there's a little bit of hot air modeled coming out of that. The little split that you see here, these are the speed brakes, so they are open right now. I don't know why I didn't open them. That's just what happens with the airplane when you turn power on the airplane. And you can see we've got the APU, so there's exhaust there. And after that, we can go and look and see. If we look up here, it says APU power is available, so that works. But what we care about over here is something called APU air. So we're going to go ahead and turn on the APU air, and then turn on either 1 or 2, pack 1 or pack 2. You don't need them both. and that's going to get ventilation in the airplane. If it's cold in the cabin, that's going to go and make things comfy for the passengers. We're going to go over here and turn on the radios. I'm not on VATSIM, but you do need to turn on the radios. And I will also suggest that you go and spin the knob here a little bit and make that active. Because these two will, I believe, start you off on the same frequencies. And if you're talking on VATSIM, that could possibly make your make the conversations a little weird. You'll hear an echo. And then I'm going to go to 122.8 over here and make that my active frequency. And that looks good. Let's see, we could also come down here. It's not working, I believe, quite yet. But we'll turn on the weather radar to standby. And with that, that sort of gets the APU up and ready to go. We've already verified our flight plan over here in the electronic flight bag. So the next step for us to go is to come into the flight management computer. Now the flight management computer is not fully operational, but it still works really well for you. So come on over here to the index page. You don't have to do a position in it. Hit index, hit page 2, root menu, and if you have inputted your pilot ID number into the airplane, into the FMC, you can hit flight plan recall and it will go to SimBrief and go and get your flight plan. Now, if you don't have updated nav data, or you've got something kind of, a little strange in your flight plan, it's going to stop and say, hey, there's a problem with this waypoint. But most of the time it just downloads it, and now you see our origin, our destination, our departure runway is already in there, and we'll execute that. So as we come on in here, now's the next thing that I usually do is we'll just go through the legs real fast. So runway 5, ASMIM, NOKIN, and then kind of look at the flight plan. I have it printed over on the other screen. There's page 3, and there's page 4. There's SKERY and EGJJ. So our flight plan looks like it's pretty good. So let's go do departure and arrival while we're here. 5 left is already in there. Our departure is the ASMIM 1 Sierra. And so we're going to grab that and execute it. Go back to departure and arrivals. Our arrival is going to be the ILS for runway 26. We're going to do the SKERY 1 arrival, the SKERY 1 Lima. So let's come on down here, and there is SKERY 1 Lima. That's the one we want. And then we have several different transitions, Jersey, Jersey, Jersey. There are 3 of these. It's not very easy to figure it out. I don't usually on this approach do that. I just leave those blank. And so we're just going to hit execute. And then if we go back into the legs, now you'll see the ASMIM, the 2 waypoints are in there just fine. And if we come down here and look at SKERY, there is SKERY right there. After SKERY, if you've got your chart here, you see after SKERY we're going to Chub and Oyster and Perch. So we've got Chub here, Chub, Oyster, Perch. So that looks good. Let's go ahead and we're going to take Chub and go back a page, and we're going to close that discontinuity and execute that. So there's SKERY, Chub, and then the next page is going to do Oyster and Perch, and then I-308, I believe. So this is going to want to take us over Jersey, and we don't want to go over Jersey after this. So after Perch, we're going to loop back around here and come in on our final. So that Jersey we're not going to need. So as we come around here on the island, you see there we are on the island out at Perch. We should be able to turn back around. So I don't think that we need that Jersey in there. Now, one of the things that I think that some people will do is they'll want to delete some of these things early. And from what I understand, you really don't want to do that until you absolutely have to, because ATC might change something. You may need to go to direct something. Anyway, in the past, I used to do surgery on this, on the ground here before I took off. And now from what I understand, excuse me, we just don't want to do that. Okay, so as far the flight plan's good, let's go over here to progress, and I usually leave this on progress. Both of these are the same. You don't have independent flight management computers, so just go ahead and do that. They are working on somebody's working on a new one. I don't pretend to understand exactly what's going on with the new airplane, but there is a new BAe or something like this coming out, and that's going to probably have some additional functionality or something. Okay, so all of that's good. The next step is the autopilot here. So flight director bars, those are going to go on. We are also going to turn on our nav1 radio, and I usually switch it over to pre so that I can flip-flop frequencies, because I just do that. The next thing to do is if we were doing a vector departure, if we were taking off, runway heading, we would set the runway heading in here. In this case, we are going to do an RNAV departure. So I'm going to go and hit the RNAV switch right now. There it is. And then our cleared altitude. And so if we look at the charts over here, my cleared altitude on the ASMIM departure is going to be 5,000 feet. That's how far we can go. So let's go ahead and we're going to dial in 5,000 feet over here. There we go, 5,000, oh, 400. I clicked one too many, 5,000 feet. There we go. So all of that's good. Altimeters, right now the altimeter is 1029 here. So 1029. And there is 2, 4, 5, 7, 1029. And this sets all your altimeters, which is just fine. I know that some pilots like to do all of their altimeters individually. I'm one person in a very complex two-person cockpit. I don't mind the loss of immersion of the altimeters on this one. Okay, now we have to go over here to the TMS, the Thrust Management System. This box is not my friend yet. I will make this, I will conquer this box at some point. But thrust management, see, this airplane doesn't have an auto throttle. It's like the CRJ, there's no auto throttle in this airplane, so you got to know a little bit about what you're doing. First of all, what we're going to do is we're going to check the METAR, and the temperature here in Manchester is 14 degrees. We're going to put 14 degrees here. Now let's turn the thrust management system on, and I'm going to hit the test button. And all the little lights are going to flash at us on the TMS. Don't worry, I don't plan to give you TMI about the TMS. I'm going to show you what works for me and turn it off. Now then, it does have a TGT degrees Celsius. That does not stand for target. What that stands for is turbine gas temperature. Okay, so at this point in time, turbine gas temperature for me means, okay, does that mean that somebody had too much Taco Bell? I don't know, but I'm just leaving this alone for the moment. I will learn it sometime down the road, but right now all I'm going to do is hit the TO button, and I'm going to leave my temperature here, and then the next thing to do is, if you zoom out a little bit and keep your eye over here on the co-pilot's airspeed bugs, and also over here on the N1, you see the little yellow bug here? Now go click your speed card. You see how it set it all for you? And I'm going to leave it alone. There it is. It works. It does not need to do anything else. Only the last thing we do is, before we push back and start, is we hit the power button and turn power off on the TMS. Okay, so all of that is good. It's time for final preparations for departure. So let's go over here and set our cruise altitude. And the cruise altitude goes up here. And we're going to cruise at flight level 3. Is it 320? Yep, flight level 320. So come on over here and dial this around. Up, it stops at flight level 290 and 8,000 feet. What that means is even though we're going to 320, it's going to stop and pressurize the cabin at 8,000 feet. So it's not broken, it just stops right there. Because if we pressurize the cabin anything more, then we're going to give the passengers a headache, and then they're going to call their lawyers, and it's going to be anyway. Okay, so pressurization is good. Let's go ahead and do some more things up here. Let's go ahead and we're going to do brake fans to auto. Brake fans are auto. Let's come on down here and we're going to pressurize the hydraulic system so AC hydraulic pump can go on. And there goes the AC hydraulic pump. We're also going to turn on the PTU, and that's the yellow and green hydraulic systems. Yellow and green, almost like the Airbus. This, I think, was the last airplane that the British BAe made before it all became Airbus. So now we see, the beginnings of yellow and green hydraulic systems. While we're here, since we've got them on, our passengers are aboard. Let's go ahead and retract those stairs. So if we come over here, you can see the stairs are going to come up. Passengers are aboard. Let's get these up while we got the hydraulic pressurized and on. There goes the stairs. And let's go ahead and we're going to close up the system. Close the doors. Okay, so we're just going to get those taken care of right now. And now we're done checking and the lights have gone out. So we'll turn off the PTU for now and turn the AC pump off. Okay, so those are good. Let's do the transponder and get that set. The transponder is down here. Now then, so the transponder is pretty advanced. There's some cool stuff in this. First of all, our squawk code. We are going to squawk 2000. So 2, 1, 2, 2, 3. And then I think he hit enter. Now you could also put in an ATC ID, a flight ID. So if we come and hit this button, we can type in, we are going to be B. So B, and let it flash, and then E. Let it flash. When it moves over, you can type it again. You can see I'm doing my call sign. Uh-oh, I wasn't fast enough. Okay, clear, clear. E. So there's B, and then 4, 4, 1. And after it's done flashing, hit enter, and that enters your flight number. So now you not only have your squawk code, but you also can put out your flight ID too. I don't know how that works within VATSIM right now, but this is a cool little thing you can do with this. I usually put it back over on ATC for squawk. Okay, the next thing we'll do is we're going to turn on the brake temperature monitoring system. Right now our maximum brake temperature is a whopping 14 degrees. And then as we're up here, let's come down, and there's the actual autopilot engage button. There are the yaw dampers, and by the way, that's how you adjust your pitch. If you want to do it that way. Okay, so all of that's good. Let's come on up here, and flight deck emergency lights, we're going to arm those. So emergency lights are armed. Let's also do fasten seatbelts. Passengers are aboard. Let's go ahead and get that done. We're also going to come over here, and we're going to do the center fuel tank transfer to auto. That's up here in the fuel area. And then we're going to turn on all the windshield heaters. So screen heat, 1, 2, 3, 2 clicks on the battery button up here, and then the last one on ice protection. Speaking of ice protection, the only guarded switch on this airplane is the ice detector. It's the only one that's guarded on the airplane. So there we go. And with that, our doors are closed. Passengers are in their seats. Let's see, the parking brake is engaged. I'm going to disconnect. I'm going to first of all make sure that my APU is online. It isn't. Uh-oh. Let's turn on the APU. And we're going to turn off ground power. And the APU is now juicing the airplane. Let's go and do ground power and chocks. And now we're all independent. Let's see if GSX is going to do a nice little pushback for us. Prepare for pushback and departure. Who will do whatever. Okay, so here's all of our stuff. And then if we look out over here, we'll see our crew chief is walking up. Hi, crew chief. So we're now ready to do our...
Hello, Captain. We are ready for pushback.
Well, hey, guess what? We're ready for pushback too. How convenient. I'm sorry. There's a certain amount of Captain Sarcastic on my flight deck. I apologize. Let's come on up here. And the beacon is in the incredibly convenient place right up there. So we're going to turn on the beacon. So all of that's good.
Departure checks completed. Bypass pin inserted.
Yay! Now, while all of this is going on, one of the things I like to do is come on over here to charts, and then I will go and center my charts and zoom this in. This is how you get the really cool looking ground charts. So you can see, we're at gate 51, and we're going to taxi out via Juliet and depart the scene of the crime here.
Locking gear.
And now we're just waiting to do parking brakes, and we'll do the push. Oh wait, it's going to ask us for our direction. We want nose left, tail right. I sometimes have to remind myself by pointing this way and this way because I've gone and confused myself a few times in a VATSIM event because I'm thinking about so many things. So nose to the left, tail to the right.
Release parking brakes, please.
And I've got the parking brakes set up here on the Thrustmaster
Commencing push.
throttle, so there we
All
go.
engines clear. Start at will.
And there we go. We are starting our pushback. So we can start some engines. Okay, engine start stuff. So for engine start, we're going to come up here and do the rest of our fuel pumps. Outer, inner, outer. All of our fuel pumps are on. Okay, the pack can go off. We're also going to turn off APU air. Let's turn the start selector to engine number 4. The start master goes on. Engine start 4. There's starting 4. Generally, I will look down here. We'll look down at the N2. At 20%, we do fuel. Real pilots are also going to keep an eye on the oil quantity, the oil temperature, and the pressure. There is 19, almost 20. And at 20, we come down here, and that's fuel. The nice thing is you can do your engine starts. If you're getting a good pushback from GSX, you don't have to worry about it. It's pushing you back. You can start your engines. And if we look out here, hairdryer number 4, engine number 4 is going. That's the joke about this airplane. They called the engines little hairdryers on them. Apparently, they were not the most powerful of engines. And we should be about ready to... Yep, there's our crew chief showing up.
Parking brakes.
And parking brake is set.
Waiting your confirmation for a good engine start.
So what we do here is hit GSX one last time, confirm we got one engine start, and then go ahead and click the GSX button again. And we can go and start engine number 3. Start selector 3, engine start, look down here. Here comes our engines coming up. And at 20%, we introduce fuel. There's 10%. They're disconnecting the ground stuff. There is 18. Almost there, almost there. And fuel. Cool. And we're unlocking the gear. There goes our tug. And
tow truck disconnected. Bypass pin removed. Left is clear. Right is clear.
okay. So that's good. We got another start on our engine. There goes the tug. Coming on down here. Start selector engine 2 and starting 2. There goes the N2. You can also see our crew chief walking away. We'll get 2 signals from the crew chief. We're going to get just a hold up the gear pin, and let's do that. Holding up the gear pin. That's good. And then we're going to get another one, and it's the gear pin and a wave. That is sort of what you all call the salute and release from guidance that some airlines call them. And that tells you that you are clear to move the airplane. They take that really kind of seriously, because one of the things they're doing, they're looking under the airplane, making sure there is not one last person down there fixing something. That is your final clearance that you can taxi. Your airplane's clear, and you know, you're not going to run over, you know, sheep or something. Okay, we got a good start on engine number 2. And when that stabilizes, we'll come over here and do engine starter. Number 1, start. And here comes hairdryer number 1. There is not a fuel totalizer in this airplane. So you can see it's about 24 kgs on each side. So we've got around 50 is what I think we've got at the moment. We boarded 48. So you have to do a little bit of math if you want to keep a close eye on your fuel. And by the way, there is a number for VATSIM events. If you're in a VATSIM event, you really want to keep a close eye on this number right here. It's called tee-off fuel. And aside from the opportunity to tell a golf joke, the whole point is do not take off if your fuel on board is lower than that number. You don't have enough fuel to make it. And that can be a problem. Okay. And we got a good start on our last engine. So engine start selector goes to off. The start master can go off too. That looks really good. Let's do the engine bleeds on 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we can also turn pack 1 and 2 on. That's a good thing to do too. We'll also do our engine generators online. Those are good. Let's also come up here and we're going to do engine 2 hydraulic pump, engine 3 hydraulic pump, and the PTU pump. That's pressure transfer between the systems. So now we've got our hydraulic pumps are all on. So packs, hydraulics, and then we get to turn on my favorite box in the whole airplane. The TMI goes back on, and then TO gets selected. Over here, we've got our flap selector. Whoops. There it is. So flap selector is right here. So flaps 18 for takeoff. And if you want, you could also go outside and look at the flaps back there. They're pretty nicely modeled on this airplane. They did a good job. Okay, there's the flap selector. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to arm altitude. We're also going to arm LNAV, and I'm going to arm vertical speed. And with that, we are now done with all of the lists. We can come up here. I'm going to do taxi lights. I'm going to do cabin call.
Cabin crew, please take your seats for takeoff.
And then I'm going to cancel that light. Okay, so that looks good. If we were on VATSIM, we would have been squawking mode Charlie on the taxiways before pushback. So let's go to TA. And you can see the cabin is now, this thing slid over here. So the cabin is now secured for takeoff. So we're good to go there. Shall we go? Parking brakes are off. If you have a gaming chair that tilts back, now's a great time to lock it in. You're going to need a little bit of throttle to get the airplane rolling. And out we go. There we go. How about that? Like I said, this is a cute little airplane. It will grow on you. It really will grow on you as you're learning about how it works. Okay, let's go ahead and start a turn around this little circle. We're going to the Juliet taxiway because absolutely no airport is laid out. Well, actually, we have some very confusing airports, but Manchester is one of my all-time favorites for where the heck are we supposed to be taxiing now? They have these little roundabout areas here. Now, I've never actually had to do a roundabout. I'm also going to go ahead and just run my controls. I should have done that before we came out. So now we have this little jog to the left and step to the right. But I am not kidding. There are so many little twists and turns around this airport. Does make me wonder exactly what was being ingested by the layout designer of this airport, and why aren't they sharing? Okay, you do leave the APU on for takeoff on this airplane. Apparently the little hair dryers out on the wings don't have enough power to do everything we need the airplane to do. And pretty much everything is set at this point. So all we really have to do is concentrate on the taxi. One of the problems that I have on the airplane is on landing. Things get a little out of control. I think I might have a little bit of noise or something in the twist stick of the airplane because it always wants to pull off to the right or something. So something's a little bit weird about that. And I'm trying to remember on this airplane when it's landing time to just move it a little bit. That kind of unclogs it or something. Okay, now we've got a little jump to the right and a step to the left over here to get out to our runway. Little bit of braking here. You can over control it too. I was probably letting myself get a little bit fast though. And then since I slowed down, I probably need to pick it up just a little bit. It does not need tons of runway for takeoff. So one of the things about this airplane is you can do an intersection departure if you want. I don't have the actual math though for trying to figure out, how much how much runway do I need? I'm sure that maybe if I would dig into some of the flight manuals on the airplane, I just have to go, you have to find them. They're all in different places in Microsoft Flight Simulator, depending upon the developer, so. One of the things is the airplane does have 4 engines. Most of us all have just 2 levers for throttles usually, a right and a left. There are some throttle sets that do have 4. I have engine number 1 and 2 both on the left lever, and 3 and 4 on the right lever, and that works just fine. I haven't run into any other problems along those lines. ATC has called and said we are cleared to clear for takeoff. So I'm going to slow down just a touch here, and we're going to come up here, and strobes on. Strobes are on. How about if we go from this takeoff point right here? And we've already done a cabin call. I always like to do a flight attendant seats for takeoff. I think it's generally the accepted rule that you don't turn your landing lights on until you're lined up on the runway. Some airports you might have airplanes over here and you'd blind them because I guess they're pretty bright. And here we go. So we're down the runway. We'll switch from taxi to takeoff. There is a chrono down here. You can go in 2 clicks to run, or go, I think is the word. We're going to go down here and do 1 click, and now we have Terra, and I think it's time to go. So first step, throttles up to about 50%.
TMS sets takeoff.
Okay, that's good, and our engines are stable. Now push them up to that first yellow line.
Power set, N1 achieved. Speed alive, both sides. 80 knots cross-checked.
Got a little bit of right rudder today.
V1, rotate. V2.
There goes our gear. It's always fun to look outside the airplane. Then we drop our nose so we can start to build a little speed. There we go. That looks good. Let's get a little help from the AP today. I'm going to be busy. AP is engaged. There we go. AP is engaged. Slowly release this. This is going to start to pitch you down. Now, I've got a button here.
Safe high speed. Select flaps.
Flaps are up. So there is a button that you can set on this airplane. I believe it is connected with the afterburners. Afterburner setting. And what this is it's a temporary disconnect of your autopilot so you can adjust your pitch. Okay, and we're coming up on 250 knots, and now I go to IAS. And so it's going to hold indicated airspeed at about 250 knots, and then just climb us like a banshee. So what this does is if you engage your autopilot and you set that, afterburner switch, what that does is it disconnects the autopilot a little bit so you could maybe adjust your pitch a little bit. And that helps you out on your departure. Now then, we need to come over to my favorite box, and we're going to go to sync, because we've got this altitude, and we're going to roll the throttles back to about 88. In fact, you can see we've already started overspeeding. So I was doing too much on this. You can get behind in this airplane awfully fast. So let's get our speed back to 250. And remember, we do hold about 4,000 feet on the departure. There's our speed coming back down to where it's supposed to be. And it's 5,000 feet, excuse me, on the departure. There's 250. There's going to be our turn to ASMIM. Okay, there's our speed closer to 250. So with our speed at 250, now we're going to go and increase this up to about at least 75 to hold a speed if you're not in a climb on your departure. And again, no auto throttles, so your job is to monitor your speed. And if it's increasing, then you've got to not increase your speed. You can also check your position here on your charts. There's Oboro, I guess. There's ASMIM 5,000 feet there. And then we can go and zoom the map out just a little bit. Oh, look at that. Nice fluffy clouds out. Oh, our speed's a little fast. Throttle back. Hold that 250. I'm still a little bit fast there. So what do we do? Throttles are now down to about 70%. And is our speed coming back down? Good. Now we're getting closer to 250. Don't want to get a speeding ticket. We are about 1.5 miles away from ASMIM. It will also give you an update on what's going on down here. You can also hit legs to help yourself out too. We had 2 ASMIMs in there. Let's see what it does. Is it going to keep us? It'll just keep us going. Okay, and there's our turn to the south. ATC is called and said that we are now cleared to our final cruising altitude of 32,000 feet. So, 32,000 feet. There is 32,000 feet. We're going to hit IAS, and we're going to roll those throttles back up to about 88%. This is one of those airplanes where you push the throttle and then it moves a little bit. Push it, you know, it's not instantaneous. There's 88% on our throttles. And then once you get everything set up, if you're set up to sync, which we are, it should sync your engines fairly close. And you can see we're doing a nice climb. And you also see that we're kind of turning back around here. It kind of missed this turn here. So after ASMIM, it's turning us back over here. This is an older airplane, so it's going to be a little bit sloppy on some of the departures and arrivals. And if you're just moving down the road at 100, at warp 10, it's going to be that way. But it'll eventually put you back on course. We're holding 250 knots at about 87 to 88%. We're climbing at about 1,500 feet per minute. Let's go ahead and add just a little bit. A bare touch of our throttles. That's going to put us above 88 to 89 or so. And then it'll eventually stabilize all of our engines for us. And climb at about 1,800 feet per minute. Again, this is a cute little airplane. It will keep you busy as hell. One of the things that I want to do is dive into the file structure of the airplane to find the documentation and start having a look at those things. So the first place that I usually go to try and find that information is the Microsoft Flight Simulator community folder. And let's see, this is an Aerosoft, I believe. Okay, is it the Otter? No, maybe I'm wrong. Fly-by-wire? No, it's not fly-by-wire. It's not Phoenix. I should at least remember which airplane who made it. It's Just Flight. Just Flight. BAe-146. That's right. Okay, so here's the Just Flight folder. Let's see. Oh, look at that. Documents. Tutorial. Here is the manual. So this is going to give us all sorts of great information. It's a 264-page book. So this is probably well worth your time to go and jump into. It shows you your doors, the weights, the ranges, installations, air supply, pressurization. So there's all sorts of great stuff to read in this. And I'm going to imagine that there's got to be a something resembling a little bit of a checklist for us. So that's one of the things that I'm going to go and try and print up soon so that I can have a physical copy of things that I need to monitor. Up 10,000 feet. Landing lights can go off. Let's go ahead and do another cabin call. Let the cabin crew know it's okay for them to get up, but we're going to leave the seatbelts on. Generally with this airplane, I will let it continue to climb at 250 knots. Now, as we climb, one of the things that you're going to notice is the outer dial here, which is your Mach indicator, is going to start to climb. And once we get to about Mach 6, I'm going to switch my climb over from IAS to Mach. And that's going to usually help me out. Now, it says VNAV, and maybe there's some sort of a VNAV in there, but don't be fooled. I don't think there really is anything all that great in terms of VNAV. We're 2.3 miles away from another turn, so we need to get ready to monitor a turn. We are currently 295 miles away from Jersey, which means we've got about an hour, a little less than an hour of flying time here. There's our turn. And if we want, you can come over and use something like Volanta or Sim Toolkit Pro And this is how you can kind of monitor your flight progress and where you're going. So as you can see, we've left Manchester. We're going to go to the west of Birmingham and over Cardiff. And then down here into Jersey. And by the way, if you're looking at information at the top of your screen, this also provides you with an overlay if you are a live streamer, or if you just like to have an overlay on something so you can watch, check your progress and everything else. Another thing you can do is you could use Navigraph for your map. So Volant is good for being touristy. Oh, where's Nottingham? Where's Birmingham? You know, that's kind of the thing that you could use something like Volanta or Sim Toolkit Pro for with those maps. This is going to be more of our navigation maps. So that looks really pretty good. How's our climb doing? Okay, we're down to about 1,500 feet per minute again. So I'm going to go ahead and gently touch my throttles up to about 90. Just gently try and push that up to about 90%. There we go. For my climb. So I can keep the climb going. Now the hard part about all this is if you're on VATSIM and you've got London Control on there saying, hey, you got to pick it up a little bit. I got 5 airplanes stacked behind you. That's when this airplane becomes an even bigger challenge, is if you've got a bunch of, if you've got ATC saying, speed it up, slow it down. After takeoff, if you go and click your speed card again, it will crunch all of the bugs up for you. There's 16,000 feet. I have already forgotten something on our departure from, on the departure transition was 5,000 feet. I forgot to transition. So 1013 millibars, or 2992 inches of mercury. There we go. I've forgotten to transition. No nice little flashing thing reminding you like we have in the Airbus. Coming in to Jersey, it's 5,000 to 6,000 feet coming into Jersey. So, little thing to keep in the back of our minds here. We're still doing a nice healthy climb at 250 knots and about 1,600 feet per minute. That's not bad. And looks like a bit of a cloudy day here. The sounds on the airplane are really pretty good. Our door is closed. We do have a galley. It's, you know, it's modeled okay. It's flat. I mean, you know, it's grainy like this because they're trying to save frame rates. But you can see we have a fairly nice cabin. No bathrooms, no flushing lavatories or anything like that, like the FlyJ Sim Q400 has. And this thing just keeps chugging right along. Again, it's a commuter. It's absolutely excellent for a short run, you know, or a small airport like the one we're going into Jersey. And my guess is that back when Flybe was flying people around, they very probably flew airplanes just like this down to Jersey. Back in the older days, Aegean Airlines had a fleet of these BAe-146 Model 300, just like this. And so you would go, if you were going on a vacation to the Aegean Sea, you'd fly down to Athens and, you know, go out and get on one of these to take you out to Naxos or over to Mykonos or something like that. So Aegean flew these around. Republic Airlines in the United States flew these for United Express. I was only able to be a passenger on this one time, and that was a small commuter run from Denver down to Colorado Springs. Okay, here we go, and there was another turn passing 21,000 feet. We are not climbing like a banshee here. Oh, look at something. Look at this, though. All of a sudden, the Mach meter is now starting to move. So again, what I usually will do is when it gets to Mach 0.6 is when that's when I'm going to hit the button and climb and have it monitor our Mach speed. I think it's going to be a little bit below the altitude where you do monitor your Mach speed. We also need to be ready to go. We do not get a top of descent, but we do have a top of descent calculator. So one of the things we could do is look over here and see on the ILS, the platform altitude is 2,000 feet. So let's go 2,000 feet. I generally like to descend and have a vertical speed. And this airplane, I'll do about 1,200 feet per minute. Let's sync the current altitude, sync the current ground speed, and now it's giving me a top of descent of 101 miles. That is a guideline. It's like Pirates of the Caribbean. It's not a rule, it's more of a guideline. And so I will always add a little bit to this. In fact, that platform altitude that I was talking about, so platform altitude is right here, 1.5 miles, 3 miles, 1 mile. So 3, 4, 5.5 miles from the runway. So now we already need to add 5 miles to that platform altitude if you're going to use, you know, our distance to the airport down here. So instead of 106, now it's 111. So when we're 111 miles away from EGJJ, and I will usually add about 10 to 25 miles on top of that, just because my calculations are sloppy, and because of wind and 25 other things that I have failed to account for. Oh, look at this. We're coming up on Mach 0.6 at 23,000 feet. We're also coming up on 25,000 feet. Somewhere thereabouts is usually about where I'm going to go and turn off my seatbelt sign for a while. Having been one of those passengers that one day had a little bit too much coffee before departure, and the seatbelt sign stayed on a long time, I try to be nice to my simulated passengers and get that seatbelt sign off, because it was not a happy landing. No, it wasn't bad. It was just uncomfortable. There was no drama. And we're now coming up at 0.6. Usually it's about 25 to 27,000 is when I'm going to go ahead and say, hit the button. We're going to be cruising, the flight planner set us to cruise at Mach 0.7. But as you can see, most of this flight is going to be climb and descent. And according to Volanta, we are, okay, so there's Gloucester, there's Birmingham, there's Newport, we're going to Cardiff and Bristol right here. So we've still got a little ways to go. But yeah, I think once we get to our top of climb, it'll be time to descend. SimBrief is always going to try and put you up a little bit higher. It's trying to help you get to a optimum cruise for fuel burn efficiency. Now we are at Mach 0.6, so between Mach and Mach 0.6.5 is when I'm going to hit that button. In fact, we're now down below 1,000 feet per minute, so maintaining 250 knots is not the goal at the moment. Mach. Now it's going to give me a little bit more power so I can get up there. That's a bit of a trade-off. Obviously, if ATC says, hey, you know, Jersey 441, kick up the speed a little bit. I got 20 planes behind you. That's when your world becomes more difficult. That's when the world becomes more difficult. I have had this on VATSIM a few times. It's been okay. Not great, not terrible. But, you know, in a big VATSIM event where you really are, you know, one of 25 airplanes tried to, you know, land at O'Hare or something, I probably wouldn't be quite so interested in flying this airplane on something like that. I would take, you know, the PMDG 737, the Phoenix A320, the Aerosoft CRJ. That's an airplane that does not have an auto throttle, and I've got my head around that enough that I could probably take that into a monster VATSIM event. In fact, yesterday on the Spy Flight on Twitch, there was a VATSIM event as a cherry blossom event for Washington, D.C. I think this time of year was cherry blossom time out there. So they had a big event there. It was all river visual. Took the CRJ on it. The landing was a little hard, but everything else went really good. So that's a great airplane. And you can see by having the airplane holding Mach 0.6 now, my airspeed is now down to about 240. Ground speed's at 397, so we're still, you know, moving along really good. I doubt a ATC would be calling at me and saying, "Would you pick it up?" I don't think they would say it, you know, "Would you pick it?" They wouldn't say it like that here. They might be a little bit more polite. Coming up on 28,000 feet. Other things that we can monitor, we would come over here and look and see how is our pressurization. Are we killing our passengers by any chance? Don't think so. Passengers are happy. The cabin temperature is what, 24 degrees? That's not too hot or too cold. Not sure what the best temperature is. So 24 is going to be about 76 degrees Fahrenheit. Again, don't know what the happier temperature is going to be on these things. We are currently 215 miles out of Jersey. We are 32 minutes away. Another important number to look at is our fuel. It says 5.2. And the thing that we're going to do is we're going to look over again at the flight plan. Here's our flight plan. And final reserve and alternate is 2.2. So there's three numbers when it comes to reserve fuel: contingency, alternate, and final reserve. Final reserve is 30 minutes. Contingency is 15 minutes. Alternate is however much fuel you need to get to your alternate airport. You add these three numbers together and it gives you final reserve and alternate, which is 2.2238. And in my case, I'm 5313, so life is good. Now, I am a little concerned. This thing says fuel in pounds. And if you look over here, I've set my airplane to be set to kgs. I may be comparing apples and oranges here, so that might be a problem. The fuel like this, if you've loaded your fuel and you've at least taken a look at everything, for the kind of the length of flights that you're going to do, you know, this is a city hopper flight. This is going to be, you know, Berlin, you know, down to Munich or something. This is going to be Newark to, you know, Greensboro or something like that. So you're not going to have the huge fuel numbers, especially like you would have in the A310 on across the pond, you know, London to New York or something like that. Oh, by the way, I did take this airplane into the new New York City airport that's available out through AnyBuilds. And I got to tell you, that was a fun flight. That New York scenery is amazing. So we got two good airports now. We've got Newark, New Jersey, and New York's JFK. So really nice airports in the New York area. Coming up on 30,000 feet. So what we're going to get here is we're going to be getting our alert for final cruise. Important safety tip: if you've gone and made any changes over here, it might disarm your altitude, so you may need to re-hit that number. And that number magically got changed to 33. It should have been 32. Now, so we've got our correct altitude in that. Sometimes that number gets changed. I don't know if it's something I'm doing wrong or this airplane has ghosts. As we get to that altitude, you're going to notice your speed going up. I filed for Mach 0.7. Let's also look here. We are 192 miles out of Jersey. The top of descent says 156. It's going up 175. I imagine we're going to start our descent as soon as we get settled into our cruise. How's that? So as far as the descent, we've basically done our math. We've figured out when we want to start our descent. Radar altitude, our decision height. So this is not a baro. If you look over here on your decision height, the baro setting for the Airbus and stuff is 472 feet. The radar altitude is 200 feet. This has radar altitude. So we set 200 feet in here. Let's go ahead and get this done, because we're going to be descending soon. Let's also go ahead and set the ILS in here. And the ILS is 110.3. 110.3. I'm going to make that active. Our inbound course is 263. I'm going to set that over here. 263. Good. We're coming up on our final cruise here. And in fact, we've gone into altitude hold mode. And so now I bet our speed is slowly starting to increase as we hold our altitude. And we've got 181 miles to go. The estimator says 163. I'm going to add a little bit. I'm going to make it an easy number to remember. How about 175? Perhaps not the most scientific way to do these things, but it does work. We've just passed Cardiff. So Cardiff and Bristol. We've done Cardiff and Bristol. Oh, you know what I forgot to do after takeoff? Turn off the APU. Forgot to turn off the APU after takeoff. I'm always forgetting that in this airplane. That's why we have checklists, I know. That's why it is that I went and dug out the manual. So after I do this, my reading for later on today is, do we have something for do we have a checklist that I could print up? I just heard a beep. What is the problem? I heard a beep. Something is not, oh, I know what it was. So I turned off the APU. It will alert you that the APU just went off. So, I mean, this airplane alerts you for practically freaking everything. Okay, we're coming up on Mach 0.7. You can see that this is slowly increasing. Not very much though. We are currently doing about 92 to 93% on our engines. So we may knock that down just a little bit. We're also up 169. We need to start our descent. So 2,000 feet. So 2,000 feet. Look at your speed. Are we about 250 knots? We are. Altitude arm, indicated airspeed. Pull those throttles back a little bit. And that should start our descent. We need 178 miles to get there. We have 165. I said I wanted to descend at about 1,200 feet per minute. We are descending at about 15. So we're gonna catch up. So what we'll do is we'll monitor this, and when this number gets a little closer to this number, then we'll add 10, and hopefully we will come out at the bottom of our descent at about the point where we need to be when it's bottom of descent time. Let's see. There was something I was gonna say and I've already forgotten it, which is one of the things that you're gonna discover with this airplane. You're gonna forget stuff. That's another reason why I really hope to find a good little checklist. And the way to do checklists, especially with these airplanes that are getting more and more complex all the time. So big camera here for a second. If you've got like some plastic sleeves and stuff, and you can print up a checklist, this one is for the MD-11. So if you go online and do like a Google search for, in this case, BAe-146 space checklist space PDF, that's another great way to find it. Print it out, put it in a sleeve like this. You know, the pilots, I mean, if you take a look at the Inga and Claudia videos on the MD-11 from Lufthansa Cargo, that's what they use. That's what it looks like. And it's, you know, it was laminated, it was in a card, and you could see that they were, you know, they actually kept it. They actually were keeping it. That's, there was their checklist holder right there. So that's, you know, you can keep that right on your desk. And in a VATSIM event that's really, really busy, like across the pond, I will tell you that using that checklist like that is really, really nice. It is very comforting to go through that while you're dealing with all sorts of other VATSIM things going on. Keep in mind, these jetliners that we're flying on VATSIM events, they're meant for 2 people. We're 1 person. And so, you know, that's just one thing that says, okay, did I do everything? Yes, I did. I used the checklist. One less thing to forget. Okay, passing 28,000 feet. We're 147 miles from Jersey. I need 145 miles, 140, 146. We've caught up. And so now we want to be 10 miles ahead of our descent. So we're 145. If we were at 135, I would be right around 10 miles ahead. So we're going to increase the thrust a little bit to slow our rate of descent. And I remember what I was about to say. So we're just doing a gentle descent here. So we're coming in at SKERY, there's chub, there's oyster, and there's perch. Notice how we don't have any altitude constraints on this one. Okay, no altitude. This airplane, if you have altitude constraints, you kind of have to keep that in mind. There's 134, 140. I'm going to go ahead and let's increase the power just a bit. Let's go up to about 73. There's 73% on N1. And now our descent rate is around 12 to 1,300 feet per minute, maybe a little less. But we are pretty close to where we want to be for our descent. There's 26,000 feet. Transition is around 6,000. Let's see if we can get a weather. So come over here to airports. Go to EGJJ. Go to weather. It is 1450 Zulu. This is our latest weather. We can highlight this thing. Go Control C, and if you've got flight notes like mine, then you can go Control V and paste it in there. Winds are 020 at 9. Good visibility, a few clouds at 2,800. It's 14 degrees, the altimeter is 1026. So it looks like for our arrival into Jersey, right now runway 8 would be the better runway, it looks like. It looks like that's the better runway, so we're gonna have a slight tailwind. But I'm gonna say it's not awful. And I wanna show you how it is that you can capture glide slope and localizer with this thing. 25,000 feet, if there is, this is usually my altitude for seatbelts. So we got seatbelts, and all that looks good. I'm gonna go over here and I'm going to do a button press here on the speed card. Watch the speed bugs over here on the airspeed indicator. Ready? 3, 2, 1, click. Do you see them move just a little bit? That's gonna help you with your, set your speed bugs as we continue our descent. We're already at 250 knots, so we're not speeding as we get below 10,000 feet. Our ground speed is 380. We actually made really good time today. Probably had the winds working for us pretty nicely. A way to tell, this is a website that I like to check. This is called SkyVector. And one of the things you could do is you could put your flight plan from SkyVector into the planner and hit enter, and there's our flight. And this is going to show you what the winds are. And then here we are, Jersey Airport. So there's something wrong here. It didn't like my flight plan. Okay, that's better. I was going to say, why are we going down to South Africa? Not a bad flight today. Not very windy. Actually, really nice, nice route. Sometimes that gets a little bit tangled up. SkyVector, that is not a website. It says log in. That's only if you're a real pilot and you want to file a real flight plan. Otherwise, just use it as a planner. I was able to go and take my cross-country flight from years ago and plug it into that flight planner. Wow, would I have liked to have had something like SkyVector to do my flight planning with. Okay, another thing I forgot to do is on our descent, I should have hit the descent button too. I forgot to do that. Over on the TMI. The TMS. I'm going to start calling it TMI the whole time now, aren't I? Okay, well, I'm not worried. And our descent is pretty good. We are 112 miles out of Jersey. I need 94 miles for our descent. That is almost perfect. Almost perfect. Couldn't be better. Time to sit back and enjoy coffee. See, the first Channel Island that we should see is Guernsey. I am told that if you go to Jersey, you really do want to try the ice cream there. Apparently their dairy stuff is so awesome that the ice cream is supposed to be incredibly, totally, wonderfully, whatever. Everything else is pretty much set here. We got the ILS set. Our descent is going well. We'll continue to keep our speed up here as we start to get a little bit lower. In fact, maybe I'm going to go and decrease this just a little bit to help me slow down for the turns here. So I'm going to roll my throttle back just a little bit to about 70 to 71%. And that's going to increase our rate of descent just a bit because I'd like to use the level off to help me slow down just a little bit. We need 82 miles to get where we want to go. We got 103 miles. This is perfect. Starting to see some of those little Channel Islands showing up there. And we just got to the checkpoint in the sky that, you know, we're here at SKERY. So there we are, we've just come in. One of the things I'll do is once we're clear of the departure airport, I'll come down here and delete the departure charts, especially when I know that I'm not coming back. It just cuts down on the confusion. So here we are coming in, so SKERY 1 Lima. There's our turn there. The ILS is all nicely set up here. We've already set our minimums. After landing, we are going to exit to the left, hoping for the Delta taxiway. And then it looks like what there, I think, does this have gate information? Maybe Jersey is too small for gate stuff. There's taxi, parking stands. There's parking stands. Always good to check this, especially if you're at a VATSIM event and have an idea of where you want to go. If we were in a VATSIM event and we just landed, so we would have just landed, exited, and the tower would say, Jersey 441, ground point Niner, have a nice day. And when we check in with ground control, saying Jersey 441 is off runway 26 at Delta, one of the first things ground is going to say, welcome to Jersey, say parking. And what they want you to do is give them a stand number. Do you know where you want to park? So in our case, we can go and look at something here, and I'm going to go for stand 7, 007. It's a spy thing, okay? So I would say stand 7. And in fact, I'm even going to put this in my notes because there's so much to remember. Now you know why I have gate information here. Stand 7. That way, I have an idea of where to go. How do you know where to go? Okay, so one of the best things you could do is use one of the professional flight trackers. So let's go and look at FlightAware. And let's say that we were going into Jersey, EGJJ. There it is, Jersey. And so now this is going to show Jersey. And we'll look down here and let's see. Now we're not flying, let's say we were flying EasyJet today. So EasyJet, here is a arrival of an EasyJet A320 from Edinburgh. And it said, took off from and landed. It doesn't give you gate information. Some of them just don't. Let's see, is there a departure? Is there an EasyJet departure? Here's a Speedbird departure. Took off from Jersey. They're going to Terminal 5. They don't always tell you gate information, and maybe Jersey's too small to report that out. And then there's also some people that turn it into a big old, you know, airport security thing. Anyhow, the whole point is you could go to, not very well illustrated point, but the whole point was you could go and look at Flight Radar 24 or FlightAware and figure and use that to find gate information. So you could say, oh, I'm flying United today. United parks on the Delta concourse. You know, something like that. Which is ironic. At some airports, United does park at the Delta concourse. I would think that that would be particularly galling to some people and confusing to others, but I tend to overthink these things. 53 nautical miles is how far we have to go. We're 77 miles out. I think we're in great shape. I'm going to go and increase my speed just a touch. So 72, let's pump it up to about 73 or 74. That might have been too much. Now we're only descending at about 500 feet per minute. That might have been too much. At least what we were doing. One of the things I found is, especially with these commuter jets like this and the CRJ, is not moving your throttles a lot. Just little baby incremental adjustments really does make a difference. Okay, that looks good. Okay, we're also 8 miles from our turn here. So let's see where we're at. So we're coming up on Chub and then Oyster. We could also change our rate of descent and slow the airplane down after this waypoint using that little button I was telling you about. And that's probably something I should. So it is indeed the afterburner button. This is called the sync, go around, and trim switches. And there is a sync button that you can press. So if you have a button on your joystick and you bind it to the toggle afterburner button, that's how you can sync up certain things. So let's try this. We're 3 miles away from Chub. After Chub, we've got 22 miles to Oyster. And let's see if we can go and reduce our speed down to 210 knots so we can throw out some flaps using that button. So you can see over here, IAS, LNAV, the AP light is on. So let's wait until we get to Chub. 1.3 miles. I usually like to get the airplane turned on its next course if I'm going to do this, so it can get itself turned and heading in that direction. Then we can make our adjustment. Aha, there's our turn. So we got 22 miles to get us to Oyster. And hopefully we can get it all done before Oyster so nobody's crabby. All right, that wasn't as good, but it's gonna have to do. Okay, so our turn is pretty much done. The airplane is now headed to Oyster. And I'm just waiting for it to finish the turn. Okay, now we're level. So let's go ahead and do this. I'm gonna go ahead and hit my button. Now we've disconnected it. I'm gonna reduce my throttle and I'm gonna pull the nose up just a bit manually. Okay, there's about 500 feet per minute. I'm gonna reduce my throttle a little more. And we're slowing down. Our speed is slowing down a little bit. Now though, you can see we're slightly off course a bit. So let's do our turn. Get back over where we belong. Not descending too much. And we're not really slowing down very much either. So much for my experiment. Okay, we're getting back on our course. Okay, we're actually climbing now, but look at our speed. That's really good. There's 220. Let's get back over here. And going down too fast. We're 13 miles out. I'm going to pull the throttles back a lot more to try and get me to 210. There's 220. That looks good. Come on, 210. That's when we can start doing some flaps. Okay, there's 210. Let's re-engage it and see what happens. It's going to hold our rate of descent a bit. It's going to try and hold 210 knots. How badly did... so we're 51 miles out. I need 25 miles to get there. So we're doing pretty good. And if we want, we can also, at 210, we can do flaps 18. So that's going to help us with our turns. Airplane has now got us going back to Oyster. I don't usually do it like this. I haven't done these very often, but it's definitely worth practicing if you want to get good with this airplane. And as I've said, this airplane is a little bit it becomes a little of a favorite. Okay, now we're descending way too fast. Let's get our engines back up there. So now we've got 48 miles to go. I only need 19 miles to get where we need to be. Let's get some thrust going here. About 73%. Now we're descending at about 1,000 feet per minute. LNAV should be making our turn at Oyster for Perch in about 5 miles. And we're at 210, which is nice. So that was probably sloppy by pro standards, but it got the job done. I clearly need to learn a little bit more. Let's see, let's add a little bit more power and we'll descend at about 1,000 feet per minute. 3 miles, let's do a cabin call, flight attendants, seats for landing. We are 44 miles left to go. I need 15 miles to do the descent. We'll add a little more thrust. Especially as we start to get to that altitude, the more thrust that you've got on this airplane really does help out in terms of you not all of a sudden your plane levels off and you're about ready to stall. 1.6 miles, and we're going to be making our turn in this general direction. There's the airport, there's the island. So we're to the south of the island. The airport is right over there in the middle. And there's our turn. And the turn at Oyster looks pretty good. And we want to be right around 2,000 feet at Perch. After we get on our heading here, it should be 088 degrees. Let's go ahead and get our heading bug set straight up here. So there is our heading bug straight up there. It's kind of hard to see. There we go. So there's our little heading bug. It's a little white triangle. And the control is this guy right here. But what that's going to do is we're going to be able to use that so that we can do our turns, our turn into the airport. Okay, about 700 feet per minute. That's looking relatively good. We have 38 miles to go. I need 9 miles to do our descent. So it's going to level us off. That way we can get our speed to my next landing speed, which is about 180 knots. It does look like we've got a landing speed of just over 40 at the moment. We're going to click this thing one more time, the speed card. And doing fairly decently. 18 miles to our final little point here called Perch. Before we get to Perch, I'm going to take control away from LNAV. There's our little airplane in the lower part here, so we're going to come out here and come on into the runway. This should work out. And there is Jersey. There is, I recall, a very nice freeware airport here at Jersey. The island itself is pretty well modeled too. It's here on YouTube, if you're watching Mark Felton videos, there is some interesting World War II history from the Channel Islands here. And Mark Felton's done some really interesting things. Actually been here on vacations a few times too, so I'm sure that was nice. Aha, look at this. We are coming up on 3,000 feet. Platform altitude is 2,000. So it's going to beep at us soon. I'm going to make sure that my altitude arm button is on. If it's not, it doesn't stop, and that becomes uncomfortable when the ocean starts to come up to get you. Okay, our heading bug is set. We're 12 miles from Perch. When we get about 5 miles, we'll take control from LNAV. and we'll go to heading hold. So 2,000 feet. We did not get an altitude alert. Oh, altimeter 1026. 1026. That should have been at about 6,000 feet. Boy, am I glad I checked that. That's why we have checklists. That's why I'm going to spend time with that manual today. So there's the airport. Nicely a beam of the airport. There's some cool little towns here. I'll bet this is a fun place to go. Any kind of an island would be great. Oh, we're at 3,000 feet. We'll get the altitude alert in just a bit. We are 9 miles from perch. I'm going to reduce my throttles just a bit to get it down to more like 1,000 feet per minute here. Slow and steady on these airplanes. You know, stuff like this. Speed brakes are down here. I don't think that you can actually arm them for landing. I think you need to do your speed brakes manually when you land, and yes, you really want to do that to plant the airplane on the runway. Okay, there it is. 2,800 feet. There's the beep. Altitude alarm. Altitude is armed. All is right with the world. Here we come 6 miles away from our turn. Let's go ahead and be ready. Our heading bug is synced. We're starting to get radar altitude now. That's good. We're going to watch our airspeed. It's going to get busy. I'm going to go now to heading hold. And we're also going to turn on nav. And that's going to go ahead and it should give us the ILS. The ILS again is 110.3. Let's go ahead and flip that and make that the active frequency. And holy moly, look at that. We got glide slope and localizer. Almost like we know what we're doing. This is getting frightening. Now then, as we get ready to make this turn, I'm going to increase my throttles here as we're about ready to stop the descent, and our speed's going to go down. And I do want to hold my 210 knots for just a little bit longer. So there's still holding 210 knots as we settle into 2,000 feet. I don't want to go much faster than this, but that's really nice. So we'll continue to go out here just a little bit, give ourselves a little bit of breathing room so we can gently get set up on this. We'll basically do a turn to the north in just a bit, and then we'll reduce to 180. And then come and there's two buttons for the ILS here. There's a VOR or localizer and GSL glide slope. So we'll use both of those buttons together. There's 2,000, a little bit slower. I'm also cheating a little bit. I'm using my moving map here as we go around. I'm also going to come down here and I'm going to go and really go and zoom this in and use this as a landing map, ground map. That's probably good. Let's turn north now. 360 degrees. There's 360. Here's our turn. And now we're settled into about 2,000 feet. I'm going to just gently pull my throttles. We're at about 80%. I'm going to get it to about 75. And let's see if we can do speed down to about 180. There's our nice little turn there.
Speed check below 205. Select gear down.
Okay, landing gear going down. As the gear goes down, that really will help slow us down even more. It's nice of the co-pilot voice to help us remember to do landing gear. All right, there's 180, so I'm going to push the throttles up a little bit more. I don't want to get too much slower. I think that's more like 190, but that's okay. Yeah, there we go. And we can look visually, and there's the airport. Let's go ahead and do a turn in now. So let's go and turn about a quarter of the way.
Speed checked below 180. Select flaps 24. Localizer armed.
Flaps 24, localizer is armed. Keep that speed up. Localizer is armed. Let's also, we're below the glide slope, so I'm going to arm glide slope.
Glide slope armed.
Good. Now this is a perfect time, as we say over in Twitch, to do a posture check. Sit back in your chair. Make sure it's not going to tilt back. If you have rudder pedals, gently put your feet on the rudder pedals. Look out the window, see if you can't spot the airport and the runway. And we're just watching. We'll see glide slope pop over here in just a bit. And as that comes popping over, we'll look to see if we get a nice capture.
Localizer captured.
There we go. Airplane's taking care of us. As a flight simulator pilot, especially on VATSIM in a big event, I absolutely feel like use your autopilot, use localizer capture, use glide slope capture. Look, we're going to be, you're busy as hell. You're doing the job of 2 people. Okay, now that we've captured that, since heading is off, I'm going to go and reset my heading to straight ahead in case we have to do a missed approach. Our speed is a little fast here, so let's reduce this just a bit. I wanted to be closer to 180. And we're about ready to come over the Jersey Shore here. This is a bit of a different Jersey Shore than the one on TV, my guess is. Okay, this is looking good. We're still a little fast here, so we'll bring the throttles back a bit more. I have the airport, I have the runway. I'm still going to go ahead and let the airplane do the work.
Glide slope's alive. 1 dot to go. Glide slope captured.
Okay, now that we've got that,
established on the ILS.
Okay, let's go ahead and start slowing it down. I'm going to click my speed card one more time. That's going to give me a landing speed of about 139. So we'll slowly begin slowing it down.
170. Select flaps 30.
Flaps 30. Again, let the airplane do the work for the time being. If there is ground control, now is a great time after you get kicked to tower to preset your ground control frequency. And we're slowly getting established on this. How about AP off?
Autopilot disconnected.
Captain's got the airplane. Probably a little bit breezy here. And I just want to keep my speed up above that yellow bug there. We're now definitely a little high.
145. Select flap 33.
Flaps are full. Little high again. Welcome to the spy flight, high and fast. And then as we get a little bit closer to the ground, the scenery just gets better and better. Come on.
Plus 100. Minimums.
Landing.
Minimums.
Ready with speed brakes.
Flight slow.
50, 40, 30, 20, 10.
Ground idle.
Brakes.
Brake pressure C.
And then this is where I kind of get into trouble here with my turn. You know,
80 knots.
I'm trying to brake and steer with rudders, and that's where I get into trouble. So trying to do the rudder pedals and do the brakes is where I'm getting into trouble with this airplane. Okay, sorry about the divots in the grass there, guys. Sorry about the divots in the grass. So I've got to figure out how to control that a little bit better. Trying to hit brakes and also steer the airplane on the ground is my problem. Maybe what it is I've just got my tension on my rudder pedals turned up too much. Should have had the APU on for landing. So we'll get that going. And again, we're going to gate stand 007. So flaps are going up. Let's see, we're going to come over here and do strobes off. There's strobes. And the best thing to do is if you've got the ground chart moving here, you can kind of zoom in, and this will get you all set up for stand 007. So yeah, maybe my problem is I also tend to rest my heels at the bottom of my rudder pedals. So because some airplanes are really, really sensitive and it sometimes hits your brakes. So I got to figure out something better for that. I could read the manual and maybe it will tell me how to set some of these things up. There's an idea. And coming up around here, here's our cute little airplane. APU is coming up, and we're going to turn around this way. I figure the ground, the descent, top of descent went really well. That's working great. This should be stands 007. Actually, I think this is just the default airport. I may have unloaded the freeware. I think that's about it. Well, not really. That can't be it. The tail is hanging out over the roadway here, and we don't want the tail hanging out over the road. So let's add just a little bit more, because there might be a really big truck that goes by. That's probably pretty good. Okay, that's probably good. So slow it down. Parking brakes are on. We do already have the APU on, so we can go and turn those guys off. Let's also stop squawking. We're good to go with stopping our squawk. We can also do seat belts because passengers are going to want to get up. Let's also turn off the beacon. Okay, so with those, we'll come over here, click the button here, go to the aircraft, put chocks in place. We can open that forward door. We can open the cargo doors. And with the door open, we can also get the stairs. And here come the stairs. And passengers can get out of the airplane. And that wasn't too terribly bad. The last thing that I'll do is go over and have a look at old Volanta. I already know that I had this big, wild, crazy turn. We'll complete the flight and then review the flight. And the flight plan says in statistics, this is where I usually get. Landing rate was, it's a minus 164? Well, clearly not going to go about that one. That one wasn't too awful. The only bad thing about the landing really was my little swerve here. And you can clearly see the swerve that happened here. So I've got to figure that part out. Let's see, there was where I was supposed to land, right there. So that's the target, and I let myself float a little bit because I've got this thing about butter. But I'm gonna say we probably had a pretty decent flight except for that. So my assignment on this airplane is to go and do a couple of things. First, I need to read up on ground steering. I've got a problem set up with that. And then the other thing is I want to find a checklist. And then I think, and one of the other live streamers on Twitch did say this, and I kind of agree, this is one of those airplanes that you just have to stay frosty with. You have to stay practiced up on this airplane. So that'll be my next thing to do, is stay practiced up so I can keep flying it. Thank you so much for watching today. As I always like to say, I'm a private pilot, I'm a live streamer, I'm a flight simmer. This is not about the right way versus the wrong way. This is just what works for me. I am relatively new here on YouTube. I'm still reading all the questions in the comments. Can't wait to hear what you have to say. Since I am new on YouTube, I'm still asking if you liked what you saw. Liking and sharing really does help me grow the YouTube channel. If you really liked what you saw, you can come on over, visit us on Twitch, 757SPY. I also have recently launched a Patreon channel, and if you really like what you saw, a huge thank you to supporters on Ko-fi and also Patreon. The Patreon videos are all about pre-flight information about airports that we're going to on the spy flight. I will look forward to seeing you in the friendly sim skies over on Twitch relatively quickly, probably sometime on Tuesday. And in the meantime, I'll be back on YouTube on a week from today. Have a really great week. See you in the friendly sim skies. As I always like to say, stay healthy and stay safe, and cheers.